Tonight's guest is a thoughtful and thought-provoking. Well, let me go ahead and get that started again. Tonight's guest is an insightful and thought-provoking artist whose music is really going to make you think. And I've had the honor of breaking bread with him. His name is Jerry Fee. The name of his project band is Heliograph, and he's currently releasing a brand new album entitled The Line Between. So let's go ahead and take our brains off the shelf. I need to do that tonight and get ready to engage in some thought-provoking conversation and a meaningful music listening experience. And there he is. It's Jerry Fee. Jerry, how you doing?
I'm really good. How are you?
Good. I think I need a little bit more coffee.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, I'm just keeping it simple over here.
Just doing the water, just keeping it real.
But simple. I did have my caffeine just before we got on, so
good. It's been a long week and a long day, but I'm really excited to have you on. And we were talking just before we got started. It's been 4 years.
Yeah. That's wild. Again, it doesn't feel like it in some instances, but yeah, when I think back at 4 years ago, it's wild, man. So I'm thankful that, again, it feels like no time now as of today. It feels like it's that quick since I saw you last.
Yeah, it really does. And that was in 2020, and we did something that was actually pretty impossible.
Yeah,
it was God who allowed us to do it. Is we did a concert together in Charleston, South Carolina. When you came
through, something going on the summer of 2020. I don't know.
Yeah, there's something was.
Some kind of a big deal. Yeah.
But God allowed us to do it.
Yeah.
Before we dive into your music tonight, we're talking about provoking thought. The name of your project band is Heliograph. And to me, that's a big college word that I didn't learn in college.
I didn't either.
Yeah, no. Okay, good. So we're in the same boat. So hopefully you can explain to us, what is a heliograph?
Yeah. So a heliograph is a tool that reflects sunlight to communicate a message. That's how simple it is. It's something that's been used for eons and is still used today. Even like if other high tech things break down, you can still use that to work. And so what's wild is I'd never heard of the term. Obviously the root of it, helio, I knew it came from the sun, but it was actually in 2018 into 2019 that when God had brought me to the Nashville area, very much had laid down all my drive and passion and my plans and my dreams to do anything at that point. And as he started giving me a new vision for something I actually get to share, I think you're going to ask me about a little bit later on, literally gave me a vision for it. He said, this thing isn't about you. So your music isn't about you either. Take your name off of it. And because I'd been a solo artist under my own name for like 5-6 years at that point. And so I knew that was my father speaking. I'm like, yes, sir. Not a problem. So I'm like, then begins the journey. Okay, so what? And I always want the name to mean something. I've been in multiple bands and had different band names, and I wanted to have some kind of a meaning. So I did what you usually do and just start thinking, and do I want it to be about what I'm about or what I'm passionate about, that type of thing. And I literally was looking up something about light, and then this word helio came up, and then I stumbled upon this word heliograph, and something about it grabbed me, honestly. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. And again, I'm looking at it going, I don't remember ever seeing this term. Like you said, I didn't learn it in college either.
Yeah.
And so I looked up the term and found out that's what it meant. So right there, I'm like, wow, that resonates with me very deeply and genuinely, because that's what I'm about, And then I just did the next step to go, okay, well, I found this word. It's not a made up word, so it's probably taken, because that's, these days it's very difficult to find something original. And so I started to look on Spotify, on Apple Music, on YouTube, looking at different artist names, and nobody had that name, which was shocking.
Really?
Yeah, nobody. I was like, what? So like now, if you pull up Spotify and type in heliograph, it's the only artist name on there. So I just, I sought the Lord even after finding it, just like, Lord, was this you leading me here? And it just made sense to me to be like, the band name doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be identified to me. And it's definitely about what I'm about. I want to reflect his light, obviously, to communicate a message to people. And that's how it came about. So I've been kind of honored to stick with it, because it kind of felt like he led me down this path right to it.
It's uniquely you. That's really what's special about it, is there is no other heliograph out there.
Yeah, none. Yeah.
You found it, and he hid that for, I really believe he hid that for you, for what you're doing.
Yeah.
Because when I met you, you were just Jerry Fee at the time. That was 4 years ago.
Yeah. And that was right in that time frame. He had actually told me that before we had met. Right. And then because of the way we met, I just stumbled back into using my name because it was just me. And after that summer, he convicted me again and was like, I told you to change your name. Literally, like that, very firm, like, I told you to change your name. And I'm like, you're right. Sorry, but it just like immediately went back like, okay, that's what it is. It's heliograph. Fair enough. So
I really sense a different demeanor in you as well since you've made that change. It's just really, God's done a major thing in you and brought you to a whole new level.
Sure. Yeah.
I really believe of maturity. Yeah. And really specifically, this word heliograph, as it pertains to your ministry through music. Can you draw that nexus together for us so we can really get an understanding of how does heliograph represent, or a heliograph represent, what you're doing as a musician?
Yeah. I mean, so I have known, and this is the process that God's, it's been a lifetime, right? When he first started pointing me to writing music when I was 18, I was not a songwriter before that. I loved music, but I was not a songwriter, didn't consider pursuing it. It started out of an English assignment in my senior English class where I had to write a lyrical poem. And I literally remember fighting it. And my teacher was like, look, man, you just got to just do the assignment, please. And I'm like, I was literally like, it's so dumb. I don't want to like lyrical poetry, man. Come on. And she just challenged me. She was like, write about something that's changed that's really impacted and changed you. Just be honest. She's like, I don't care if it's great. Just write it and be honest. And I'm like, fine. So I did the, like the 18-year-old teenage boy thing. And I did write this story about a time when I was in like third grade that I really believed I saw God move in my life. It was very tangible. And so I just wrote about that and made it rhyme. And she picked that to read it in front of the class. And I was pretty shocked by that, because I was like, I don't think it's great. But as she was reading it, she started to cry. And I literally felt like for the first time, God gave me a very clear direction, like tapped me on the shoulder and said, do that.
Okay.
And I had this sense of understanding what he meant. That was someone who like wasn't in the church. And something that I had experienced that I wrote about that I knew was of God, I shared it in a way that was reachable to her. Right. And so that right there has been the whole reason God asked me to do this. I'm going to get off on a slight tangent, but it has a part to do with my story. So out of that, I started doing that, going, I think I'm supposed to be someone who reaches outside of the church walls. I am not coming against anyone who writes for the church, because that's very needed. I grew up on that music. I still listen to it all the time. So it's obviously got a part and a place in the body, and I'm a big fan of it. But I knew at that time, like, that I'm not supposed to be that guy. I'm supposed to be the guy that goes and shares the Jesus I've known since I was a little kid with people who don't know. And so I started on that journey, started trying to form bands and, be in things and play in bars and clubs and festivals anywhere we could, just to get out to the world. And along that journey, I started doing what like I saw other people in the Christian music industry doing. And I just kind of, because I was struggling a lot, I was like, well, I'll just do what they're doing. I'll just replicate what they're doing. And I started without realizing it. After years of doing it for probably a decade, I was really trying to find my audience in the church again. And it took the Lord literally stripping all that from me and bringing me back to the reminder of no. When I asked you to do it at the very beginning, I asked you to do this for people who don't know me. And so that reminded me. And so like I had to rethink and reframe everything and go, you're right. So how do I again start writing about those experiences I've had with you my whole life? and share them in a way that's reachable to people who don't speak the language of someone who's been walking with Jesus for years, right? You know, some people put a term on that, Christianese or whatever, but how do I say this so you can understand it? It's palatable to you, and share the amazing things I've seen him do and the way he's changed my life and challenged me. And so all that. So that's why I do what I do. And that's where I think that going back to heliograph is because, right, that reflection of his light to communicate a message can go anywhere to anybody. And I get to do that. And it's amazing. It's an honor. So I keep rethinking all the time. How do I say this again, right? How do I communicate that even better this time? So that's my heart.
What you're doing is so important, because there's not a lot of people that are engaged in ministry outside of the church and working to reach those that are on the outside. And it's so easy when you get involved in ministry to fall back into that, because, hey, I've got an audience over here and they'll listen to and they'll agree with what I'm doing. When you step outside, not everybody's going to agree with what you're doing. Not everybody's going to be your fan. But there are going to be those that emerge. It's like, aha, I see God moving on you. I see God moving on you. And you're able to draw them in. It's a tougher place, just mentally, because of what you're working through and what you're dealing with. And I want to encourage you to keep doing that. We just had the same thing happen over here with us, because the whole purpose of what we do is to reach outside of the walls of the church. That's what it is. This is very different, and it's got its own unique challenges to it. And it's so exciting to hear somebody else that's realizing that. And maybe there's somebody that's watching or listening and you feel that you've been called to reach outside of the church. Go for it. Take that. It takes a step of boldness, doesn't it, Jerry, to do that, to step outside of that?
Yeah, I think it's that weird combination, right, of boldness and humility, right? The humility is realizing, I mean, it's not about me, and it's not because of who I am that I get to anyways, right? But the humility of realizing this is my path. This is what I'm asked to do. But the boldness to do it. And then I think with that comes and this leads to probably what's going to be talked about in some of the songs that I've been writing for this project currently, is I want to be really truthful. I'm not going to sugarcoat things. I'm not going to lie to you, but I also am not going to say it in a condemning way. And that's something you have to really think through. Like, how do I say this very hard truth without sounding like I'm condemning you? You know, I just want you to know. I just want you to know, so that at least you can consider something maybe you didn't know before, or maybe you put on the shelf 30 years ago. You know, that's my heart. So I think it's important. And I think it's an important place with you guys and what God's called you to do. Just always be in that wrestling place, right? Of like, I'm going to be honest. I'm going to tell the truth, but how do I do it without, condemning someone in their worldview and go, no, I get where you're coming from, but I need you to know this.
And that takes a lot of wisdom and takes a lot of maturity to do that. And going through really, and I think you've been there through the school of hard knocks to get to that place too, where
Yep, that's for sure.
You've got a new album that's currently being released. It's entitled The Line Between, and you're releasing this in a very unique way. Can you share with us how you're releasing this album and why you chose to do it in such a different manner?
Absolutely. Yeah. So The Line Between is going to have 13 songs on it. 10 of those 13 are brand new. 3 of them actually came off of 2 different EPs that I released last year, that I just felt like when I started compiling all these songs, it's like, it's missing a little bit of an ingredient, right? A little bit of texture and flavor here. And so the lyrical content of those other songs from releases last year and the style just made sense to go, those. And when I plugged it all together, I'm like, yep, that's a completed picture. That's what I was hoping for, right? So it's kind of cool how that happened, because I didn't plan that. As I started writing for this new project in the fall, I didn't really have a plan. Obviously, you know, like when you're throwing up paint on a canvas, you're like, I'm just going to start seeing where it's going. And that's kind of what I was doing as I realized, man, there's another full album here, which would be my second full album in 3 years for Heliograph, which is a lot. And then I've done 2 EPs in between. So it's a lot of music release. And I was like, I could just drop this as an album. I did that with the first one. That was a full length. I just dropped it out there and said, if people listen to it, great. I I decided after just kind of contemplation and also just considering how people take in music nowadays, right? Because, if you're going to put music out to people, you have to consider those people,
Mhm.
because they're,
Yeah, that's a
and,
big
you
yeah,
know,
that's a big
yeah.
thing.
And so I realized that, if you just drop, if you're especially relatively unknown person, which I'm okay with that. If you just drop 13 songs, most people will maybe hear one or two.
Mm,
It's the truth, right?
yeah.
Uh, some people will hear them all, most will hear a couple. So just through realizing that people take in usually a song at a time, I was like, well, I'm going to finish it as a full album release by the end of the year. So in December, all of it's going to be out as a single album format. Until then, I'm releasing a song every 6 weeks.
Okay.
And that's just to basically keep allow people to maybe have the chance to have heard of it, like a single song, and go, give them the chance to maybe they didn't catch it the first day I dropped it, and so I'm gonna make some noise over here about it, and give a lyric video, and maybe share part of the lyrics on a different day, and just give them time, right? Because there's this thing
Mhm.
about people knowing something where sometimes it takes like 12 touches for someone to go, oh, that's that song, or you're that artist that did that song. So I'm fine with that. So yeah, I've never done it this way with any other project before, and it just felt like the right way to do it, honestly, after deciding. So yeah,
Yeah.
so the first single that's actually on the album officially came out the end of January, and the next one's going to be out next Friday, and every 6 weeks from there on out through the entire year. So yeah,
Nice.
hopefully that connects well with people. But that's
Yeah,
all I
I
can do.
like it. It's different. Well, let's get into people's minds for a minute because I was thinking about some of the things that you address in your music. And to me, right now, it seems like a lot of people have just kind of left their brains on the shelf and common sense has completely been thrown out the window. And everybody is just kind of in the zombie phase where they're just like, huh, and they just
Yeah,
accept things that are coming at them. But you, as an
yeah,
artist, what you're doing, the way that you present yourself, and the way that you present your music is very thought provoking because I mean, heliograph, I have to think about that. And then
mhm,
the title of this album, The Line Between, what does that mean? Where are we going? So
yeah.
why is it so important for you as an artist to provoke people to think? How does this pertain even to spiritual matters and provoking people to
Yeah.
think?
Well, I think, and it's funny too, Lynn, because like I struggled for years as an early songwriter to be so honest that it would provoke people. Except for that very first thing I wrote. You know what I mean? I was
Yeah.
scared to. I was scared to be so honest that I would provoke people. And so I had people very close to me that would challenge me and be like, I hear what you're trying to say, but why don't you just say it? Like, come on, dude.
Mm.
Like, stop beating around the bush. Just say it.
Yeah.
And again, it just like you said before, it just took all the right the school of hard knocks. It took all the right processes for God to get me to the place of going, no, it's art is supposed to provoke something. I don't have to be liked by everyone. I'm not going to be heard by everyone. Um, it is better. I really believe art is better served if some people hate it.
Mhm.
That means you provoke something. There's like a response versus what you don't want is gray, right? Like,
Yeah.
if people are just indifferent to it, that's not great. And so I just I not got tired of, but I knew that I was not fully diving into what I was supposed to be as a songwriter. To really, again, the heliograph thing started changing that, right? Like
Yeah.
really focus on what am I about. And it took me a long time to get there. And so yeah, so I truly believe that. Like, you know, I think there's layers to great art, right? Something you might feel it the first time, right? A good melody, great rhythm, you might be like, oh, I'm moving to it. Now I feel connected to it. And the second listen should say something to that person, right? Should now they're like, okay, so you caught me the first time. What is it you're trying to say? And that's what I think the sad part is, a lot of popular music misses out on, right? Because they're
Yeah.
not really, like you said, they're not really saying anything. I've done it
No.
myself, man. Um, and that's, like I said, that's the line I've been trying to ride and wrestle with is how do I make bold, strong statements about truth, not my truth, about truth, that I know that I know that I know, and make people wrestle with it. Not make, but allow them to wrestle with it. That's a better way to put it. Because that's what we all are supposed to do. So that's my heart. That's what I'm trying to do. And so I'm thankful that I appreciate you catching that, catching on to that. So that's awesome.
I like to think things through. That's just kind of the
Same
way
here.
that I am.
Same
And
here.
yeah, I'd like to give a shout out real quick to the Ginger Giant who's watching us live tonight. Ginger Giant, thank you for weighing in tonight and watching. I know you got some questions, and maybe we'll be able to get to those later. I want to stay on topic with our guest Jerry Fee this evening, and what this line between. Yeah, I'm still wrestling with it. How would you define the line between?
So the line between is from a phrase in one of the songs. And I originally wasn't going to, I was going to title it something very different. But again, when you step back and look at your piece of art that you've created over months, right? I step back, I'm like, what is this whole thing about? Well, there's this song that's on there where it literally says that the line between, so if you look at your gravestone, there's a time you come in, there's a time you go out. The life you live is the line in between.
Okay.
That's literally what that's from. And so, and it's funny. I've tried to write that song, Glenn, for years, right? I don't know if you ever, I've tried to write that same idea and it's never worked. I just couldn't land it. And it worked for this time around for this thing. And that, when I really pulled back, right, in that 30,000 foot view, I was like, what am I about? What is this all about? Like, all we have is the today, this dash in between the day that I'm born and the day I'm physically leaving this earth and this body, right? The line in between is all I can deal with. That's all I have control over. That's it. And so what am I going to do with it? So that's the whole thing, is that what's my response? What's your response going to be? And again, I want to provoke people to that thought. What is your response to this time that you get? Yeah.
It provoked me to think in a certain way too. And I'm going to throw this out there. I wasn't thinking about that. I was thinking about something else.
Okay.
And it goes to when I study scripture, we have the verses that are right in front of our face.
Yeah.
When we're reading, right in front of our eyes. And I'm like, God, what does this mean? Because there's so much that's in there that unless God shows you and directs you as you're reading the scripture, that divine revelation, that rhema word, you're not going to fully understand what's going on. So
absolutely. Yeah.
It made me think that way. And the way that you do this is a lot like the way that Jesus made people think. He spoke in parables. A lot of times it wasn't just right out there.
Yeah.
And he used words and phrases that made people think, to engage the mind. And that's the wonderful thing, because God created us with brains.
Yeah.
And
there's scripture, and I feel bad because I'm not the best at retaining where it came from. But the scripture says, "Come, let us reason together," right? About our faith, right? We're not supposed to check out our mind and go, I'm just blind faith is not a thing in Christianity. It's not blind. It's based on evidence of a God who has proven himself time and time and time and time again, right? And so to reason together is not something that's of oh, that's new age, or that's of I don't know, modern philosophies, but shouldn't be attached to Christianity. No, we're supposed to be able to reason out our faith. And therefore to make us think is very important, because in that we're going to find the truth. I fully believe that if any of us really want to know truth, truly want to know truth, it will lead us to the creator who made us. It just will.
This is
So
I love what we're talking about. And I love that you bring that up about reasoning out your faith, because sometimes that just doesn't involve thinking it through in your own mind and your conversation with God. It involves discussing it with other people.
Yeah, which is so important. Again, we're not meant to do this alone. It's me and people that want to hold me accountable. We're walking out this faith together. We're supposed to be able to ask those questions and discuss the hard things. And that's where we start to see God again. And those light bulbs come on. You're like, oh, maybe that's what God's up to and what he meant. And just all of it, that combined with scripture and talking to him, and right, you put all that together, and that's how you start to understand, you start to see.
Absolutely. And unfortunately today, a lot of us, we do not reason out our faith with each other. We beat each other over the head with our point of view.
And that's what breaks my heart, because I know that doesn't move anybody. It doesn't motivate anybody. If anything, it does the complete opposite. And I don't want to create those spaces. I don't want to be in those spaces adding to that. I would rather sit with someone as one-on-one as possible, right? Or in a small setting and just talk. See the humanity in them, and vice versa. And again, when you can truly reason out things, even if you don't agree, if you're willing to talk, again, if you really want to know truth, you'll be led to it. I have no doubt. I've never seen it different.
Exactly. Well, let's get to some tunes, man. I wanted to dive into the heliograph listening experience. Let's call it the experience.
I like that.
Yes.
that sounds so, that's just
make it sound fancy. We're going to be serving up a porterhouse tune here. The Real Thing is the title of the track. Is this the one that you've released this week, or are you releasing it tomorrow? Where are we now on the timeline?
Next Friday. So this is going to be the first public play of this song, right here. Literally, it doesn't come out till March 8th.
Okay. This is really exciting that this is going to be the first play of this song, and this is one that makes you think. And for those that are watching and viewing right now or listening, if you have the ability to weigh in when after you listen to the song or while you're listening to the song, like to hear your comments on this as well. This is a very thought-provoking song, and I'm sure that when you listen to it, some things are going to ring true to you as well. This is The Real Thing by Heliograph, due to be released next week. I want the real thing.
Never seen before. Feels like 1984. Propaganda, hypnotism, out full bore. Time to start another war. Confusion is the norm, now the truth is ignored. Check your logic at the door. Agree to disagree, this ain't a lot no more. They're calling it a culture war.
Progressive utopia, regressive dystopia. In light, awareness, in prison, in darkness.
It's a war of the gods.
I am in the God of man.
I want the real thing, not the wicked world. I want the real thing, don't need no sugarcoat. I want the real thing, not the wicked world. I want the real thing. So he's like the other myths we heard before. Toss him in with old folklore. Some biggies hippie lightweight to the core. Real nice guy, nothing more. Other people knew him well, said, oh Lord. They saw signs you can't ignore. 3 days in the tomb and the stone got rolled. Best mic drop heard round the world.
It's either illogical or so supernatural. It could be a fallacy or straight up reality.
It's a war of the gods.
I am in the God of man.
I want the real thing, not the wicked world. I want the real thing, don't need no sugarcoat. I want the real thing, not the wicked world. I want the real I wanna live while I'm alive. I wanna thrive, not just survive. I wanna live while I'm alive. I wanna thrive, not just survive. I want the real thing, not the wicked world. I want the real thing, don't need no sugarcoat. I want the real thing, not the wicked world. I want the real. I want the real thing, the real thing. I want the real thing, the real thing.
Okay, let's dive into that for a moment. I love
A lot
it.
there. Cool.
And
Thank
there
you,
is a
man.
lot. There is a lot there. We could spend an entire night talking about that entire song, and probably about a month's worth of Raven's Heart editions just to dive into that
Yeah.
of what you've presented in that song. I wrote something down though as I was listening to it, because every time I listen to that, there's something that comes to my mind that I'm sensing. And really, with this, the real thing, I love the sound and the genres that you chose for this, because it takes me back to the 90s
Yeah.
when we were coming out of the 80s, which were very materialistic and very plastic. And most of the music in the 90s was in rebellion against the music and the time of the 80s.
Yep. We're tired
This
of
is
the fake glam. Yeah.
Yep, exactly. Exactly. And this is, it's just real and it's raw is what you've got here with this. What is the real thing, Jerry, that you're referring to here?
It is Yahweh. It is God. In the second verse talks about, it's literally describing Jesus. What some people think it is, and it's this idea of philosophers, religions, modern society, old, like everyone has their opinions on Jesus, on God or not God, right? Whatever. Like it literally goes back to what we were just talking about before we played the song. If you really want to know truth, you can find it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't want other people's opinions on the one who made me. And I just want to know him. I want the real thing. Like as no matter how uncomfortable that makes me, you know what I mean? Like Jesus doesn't just work for me. Jesus challenges me. Jesus calls me out. Jesus, you know what I mean? Like he exposes me.
Yes.
I want that, and no matter what the cost, like no matter what it is, I want the real thing. So that's the premise of the song. And so I do have to give credit though. We're all inspired by something, right? I've been on that train of thought for probably since I met you, probably since 2020. Again,
Wow.
you were talking about, and I'm in agreement. If you listen to the first verse, talking about, man, the last several years, man, it feels like the notch on crazy just got cranked up, like broke 11 and just went off the rails. It just does. It feels like common sense, like being grounded in anything, it's just gone.
Mm-hmm.
And just trying to make sense of how we deal with that, right? And how do we live through that? And so I've been on that train of thought, feeling like, it feels like nothing we've seen before, right? It feels like 1984, the book is the reference, right? Just like there's this crazy thing happening, man, where there's, so anyways, to give credit, like I was saying, where credit's due is, I had stumbled upon listening to the podcast of the frontman of Skillet a couple years ago.
Oh, okay.
John L. Cooper. So he does a podcast called Cooper Stuff. And he happened to have been writing a book dealing with this subject matter. Right. And the way he was describing it, it's again, and that's what good artists do, right? He was giving me like, those are the words I was searching for. So that line in the chorus, wimpy, weak, and woke, came right off of his lips. You know what I mean? So
I love it.
He was my inspiration. Maybe someday I can tell him, I don't know. Doesn't probably matter. But it just, like I said, it helped me sum up this, like, there's so much chaos, so much craziness, so many opinions. The fact that we're living in a day and age where it's like we're in one hand we're told there's no truth. The other hand we're told, well, this is my truth, and you better accept it and celebrate it. Like those can't live in the same space. So what are you talking about? Like, push all that stuff out of the way. I just want the real thing. I just want to know God. I want to know the Jesus he sent, right? And I just want to know that. And whatever that looks like. And in that bridge, right, I answer that. Like the reason I want to know that is because I want to live while I'm alive. I want to not just be existing. I want to really live. And he's the only way. And the only way to do that is to actually know him and what he wants for us and has for us. So that's all that in that song. Yeah.
I'm just seeing the timeline for you supernaturally right now as you're talking about all of this, because earlier you were saying that it was in 2020, when we met.
Mhm.
In the cheeseburger I made you that got you on this path. It's
Yes.
got to be that was an anointed cheeseburger.
Yes.
I love cheeseburgers.
That's a
But,
way to someone's heart right there, man.
exactly. It was at this time that the world starts going mad, and
Yeah.
that's the only way to describe it. It's
Yeah.
a mad
Yeah.
world,
Yeah.
and God starts to work in you to focus where He wants you to be a
Yeah.
voice in this time, and you've obeyed it. And I really believe that everything up till now was preparation. And as you continue to obey the Lord and just put things out there the way that they should, your voice, it's going to rise above the stuff that's not real.
Mm.
And that's the beauty of the craziness that's going on. I lament what's going on. It drives me insane. I want to beat my head against the wall sometimes.
Mhm.
But when the crazy is crazy and it gets crazier,
Mhm.
those who are walking in wisdom and truth, radiating the light of the Lord, become so obvious.
Yep.
And they're like,
Yep.
how did you do that?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I didn't do that. The Lord did that. And
Yeah.
He draws them to Him through us as the heliographs. You're in the perfect spot, brother.
Yeah. I appreciate that. I think it means a lot, man. It's a great perspective of it, like for even me to hear, just because it is, man. I mean, you can tell I've been doing this a really, really long time, man. But it took all that time and preparation for God to get me where He wanted to use me for this time and season, and whatever the time, however long that is. I don't like, that's His call, right?
Yep.
And so, I want to be faithful to what He's called me to do for the time He's called me to do it, and
That's
not
awesome.
what I've did in the past where I knew that I missed it. I didn't realize in the time, but with hindsight, I realized for a season I did miss it because I was
Yeah.
pursuing something He didn't ask me to do, and I don't want to do that again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's okay that you did. That's all that grace and mercy that follows
Yeah.
you.
And again, the way He redeems and restores, now I don't, again, nothing's been missed. Nothing's been lost.
Yeah.
He used it all. He threw all that stuff in, and He's like, good. Yeah, this has prepared you. So you just use it all. And He's amazing that way. And again, that's what I've always wanted people to know. I will say this over and over and over, is since I was young, I just remember sitting with friends who didn't know the Jesus I knew as a kid. And I just wanted them to know, like I said before, for them to at least consider if they're willing to. It's all this comes down to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. I want to share something with you, and I think this is going to encourage you as well as those that are watching, listening, and going to be watching and listening on the replay. Have you ever seen a video of how an advanced fighter plane flies? You see the main flaps on the plane, the big ones that are moving, but then you see all these little flaps on the wings that are moving as well. And a lot of people are like, "Oh, that's just the air moving that." No, it's not. Let me explain what's going on. And this is what's going on spiritually with God's goodness and His grace and His mercy when we're doing things. We're flying the plane, we're moving the big flaps, we're doing the directions. But all of those little flaps on the plane, the pilot's not controlling those. That's the artificial intelligence inside of the plane that's correcting all of the pilot's errors. So on that plane,
I definitely didn't know that.
Yeah, on the plane, you've got some goodness and mercy. And that's the way God is with us. When we start flying and doing things for Him, he makes us feel like we're right there in the cockpit and we're flying that plane. Dude, look at that 360 barrel roll I just did. Well, you did that, but I was the one that corrected it. So that
I kept you from messing it up.
Exactly.
That's really good. That's really good.
Exactly. Yeah. So in talking about that, this is one thing that I've learned is that when I've put my hands to do things that God has called me to do, He always reveals Himself to me in a way that I've never experienced Him before. It's a fresh new perspective on who God is. Yeah. When you put your hands to putting this album together, what was the greatest thing that God showed you about Himself that you've never seen before?
Feeling emotional about it right now when you ask me that, man. He's just faithful, man. He's consistent, and I'm not, sorry for hang on. I just ripped my ears out. I got pretty emotional, man. Sorry about that.
That's okay. It's real.
You know, I've said this for the last 3 years, that I just wish I was as faithful as God is, because I know the closer you get to Him, the more you realize you're not good, you're not faithful, you're not right. It's
Yeah.
and all of these things I spoke of my experience with Him that compile this song, The Line Between. It's me reminding myself of how amazingly good and faithful He is. Like looking back at my whole life, all the redemption, all the things that He's given back that I let go of. He's given back that I fought Him for or against. Things I don't deserve, just all this stuff where I'm like, again, it's like, I can't, how am I going to, He's healings, mercy, just whatever, right?
Mhm.
Is, how would I ever shut my mouth and not share that with somebody else? How dare I, and so through this process, it's just, He keeps bringing me back to that, of like a new level of, you experience my faithfulness and my goodness to this extent, you're going to go through even harder things, not because I don't love you or I forgot about you, but because you're going to experience an even bigger level of how good and faithful I am. But you're going to have to go through this trial and these difficult things to get there. So that's what it's been for me, which makes me wonder what's ahead. because I've realized that a lot of things that I write start speaking to my future as well. It's very interesting. Yeah. Yeah, thanks for that question, man. I didn't expect it to hit me that way. So
Wow, no, that's and I appreciate you keeping it real on that. And we're going to talk about that. Let's hold that thought for a moment. Got to pull up. I've got multiple notebooks and screens over here with various things written on them. I want to hold that thought on wondering what is it that's ahead. I want to stay on that for a minute, and we'll get back to that in just a second. But and actually, let's tie it into what I really want to ask first is, you've got this gifting that is mind blowing, and that's the ability to take a whole bunch of different genres and styles and weave it all into not just one album. It's one thing to put out an album with different songs that have different styles, sounds, and genres.
Yeah.
But you can pack it all into one 3 to 5 minute song. First of all, how in the world do you do that? And number two, how does flowing in and out of those different genres and styles help communicate the message of your music?
Yeah, man, it's a good question again. Thank you. I listen to a lot of music and has always listened to a lot of music. So even from, again, when I was a kid, and I've always loved music. So I grew up in the church. I love to worship through music even at a young age. I listen to all different kinds, all different styles. And it's so funny because as an early songwriter, it felt very disjointed. It's like when you do anything new, right? You're learning a skill and you're like, I was like, I don't feel like I can just write one style. I don't think I can, and I just like, it was hard I couldn't just go, okay, I'm going to be a hard rock artist. Okay, I'm going to do all that and just do that. Or I'm going to be a singer songwriter and just write that. Like, it just kept coming out of me to go, this influence is coming out in that song. That one's coming out in that song. And early on, I guarantee if you would have heard it, you would have heard like, okay, I can hear this influence on that one song, this influence on that song. So just like any discipline or skill, it took years and years and years and years, and me just being comfortable instead of seeing that as like a weakness, right? Which I initially did. I was frustrated at myself.
Okay.
Right. And I would have some producers, be like, you need to like pick, man. Like, you're too all over the place. Pick. What do you want to be? And I'm like, that's who I am. Like, that's me. I love hip hop. I love pop music. I love hard rock, into some variations of metal. I love worship music. I love R&B. You know what I mean? Like, I love so much.
Yeah.
And so I guess over the last, here's the beauty of it, man. When I started doing this thing as Heliograph, I am so over the age limit of being able to be signed to a record contract, of being care about like what the industry thinks or even what some people think. And there was this really beautiful freedom that came with just going, I'm just going to write and not worry about what it is. I'm just going to worry about, do I love it? And do I feel like it's honest?
Yeah.
Like, can I stand by this? And when I like put the shackles off of all the other, like, I have to write for radio, or I have to write for this audience, or I have to do this, that's what started coming out. So I didn't necessarily intentionally like make it happen. I just told myself, I'm not going to limit myself. I'm just going to let it be what it's going to be. And, you know, out of that, as you notice, you'll hear, you know, reggae stuff mixed with hip hop, mixed with metal, mixed with pop.
Yeah.
And, you know, a bass line that's very much R&B dance influenced, you know, just like it's all of that.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, I think with time, so I've been producing my own stuff for years. I think with time, you know, it just comes with, one, God put me in the seat when I first moved to Nashville, where I was serving other really, really good producers and just helping them, and just getting to be in the room and getting some thoughts and opinions and seeing what they did and having feedback from them on my songs. And, you know, just again, right, it's all that, like we've said before, it just took all of those different relationships and seasons to get to this point of where now I feel like I understand how to put all that together. And I still try stuff, and, you know, and that's the thing with all art, right? Like, I'm not afraid to try stuff now and just go, I'm gonna see. And if it's terrible, it's terrible, you know. And but in the end, I want it to be where, like, no, I put away the things I don't like, that I can't stand with, but, you know, the end product, even if someone else doesn't love it, I love that. I really enjoy this. That's what I want to get to. Like, I just enjoy this, you know. So that's kind of where how it got to where it is, I guess. Yeah.
That's awesome. Because when I was working on developing that question before we did this interview, God kind of stopped me in my tracks, and I went down a rabbit hole. And I want to tie this into what you were just saying a few minutes ago about where is this going to take me? And it ties into with your ability just to flow in and out of different styles and different genres. Something hit me, and you hit all these points. God took me to 1 Corinthians 2:9, where it's written, but as it is written, eye hath not seen, nor ear heard, neither have entered into the heart of man the things which God hath prepared for them that love him. So what lies ahead, you haven't even thought about it. You haven't even heard it. You haven't even seen it yet.
Yeah.
It's out there, and it's going to blow your mind. But as that pertains to the music, we on earth, in this limited capacity, in this limited thing called time, which is basically a human construct anyway, we put music into this box of, okay, it's got to be 3 to 5 minutes long. It has to be this certain way, and it has to be radio ready. That's what we consider music.
Yeah. Yep.
When we enter into the kingdom of heaven, I believe that this applies as well. And I think you're demonstrating this, Jerry, through how God's using you. When we get to heaven, the music up there or there is not going to be radio ready, 3 to 5 minutes long, one specific genre all the way through.
Yeah.
I really believe that it's going to flow from one genre to another, and there's going to be notes and sounds and styles that we've never heard before.
Yeah.
And I think what's happening with what you're doing, because of that freedom, you're not limiting the Spirit working through you. You're letting the Spirit work through you to demonstrate. You're giving us a preview, Jerry, of what it's going to be like when we hear music in heaven.
Wow. Thank you, man. That's a big compliment. And I hope that that's me being used by the one who gave me the gift, you know, honestly, like everything's from him anyways. And I'm hoping that I tap into what he wants, you know, what he has for me, and therefore others. Yeah.
Exactly.
Appreciate that.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's just that, because there have been times where I have heard music that's not been played. It's not coming from the radio. It's not a vibration from something else. It is something I have never heard before. It's a melody, and it's on an instrument that I can say it's like a violin that I've heard it on, but it certainly wasn't a violin. And I've actually experienced that. And when I heard your music, it kind of took me back to that a little bit. I was like, okay,
wow.
there's something really going on here. So
that's awesome, man.
You know, So, and it's funny because sometimes preachers will talk about the outback of heaven for the less faithful. Well, the music over there is going to be flowing from Cotton Eye Joe into Don't Worry, Be Happy to, to the Baby Elephant
Yes.
Walk. It's just
Yeah.
driving me crazy. Just joking, people. Just having a little bit of fun.
Some of them are like, no, that's hell. Why would you? Yeah. But it'll be the amazing versions of all that. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
That's good.
One of the things that makes you very unique is you studied journalism in
Yeah.
college.
Yeah. Yep.
I would have never guessed that. I looked that up.
Yeah,
How-
that took some digging for you to find that out, because that's
I
yeah.
did. I was like research. I had
Impressive.
my glasses on, cups of coffee, paper flying all over the place. I mean, it was research central over here. What are the similarities for you between journalism and being a musician?
Yeah, I feel like we keep talking about it, which is funny. It's so, I think God's doing something. I like the truth.
Mhm.
Which is funny. That's why I quit working in journalism. Dead serious, because I realized very quickly that most producers were not after the truth.
No.
This was a long time ago. This wasn't like just the last few years. I'm talking 20 years ago, man. Most producers I worked with were not interested in the truth. They wanted the story they wanted, that had the narrative they wanted. And that bothered me to my core. Oh my word, I was miserable. So I loved it in college because I thought, cool, I get to pursue the truth and I get to share the truth with people. Like, what a great gift, man. And there's some creativity to it. It's not the same as like making films or commercial or music, right? But there was some creativity to it that I enjoyed, but it was really that. And so that's what led me to it. That's why I liked the idea of it, and it broke my heart. And I was miserable when I graduated college and started working for a news station, because I realized so quickly, like, this isn't about the truth at all. They're totally trying to push a story, and I can't sleep at night. I couldn't do it. I would get called into the producer's office because I wasn't willing to get the video they wanted because it wasn't the story. And I would
Wow.
get chewed out on a regular basis. So I got to the
Wow.
point where I'm like, you know what? It's not going to change. I need to just step out. And
Yeah.
I mean, that was a tough realization, but I was like, look, I don't care if this is what my degree's in, and I just spent 4 years getting this. Like, if this is the industry, I guess I better see what else God might have for me. So I think that's what I've been about. Again, like, this is a narrative I see God weaving into my life, right? I just want to know the truth, and I want to share it with other people.
And that's what you're doing with your music, is you are sharing the truth.
Yeah.
through your
I
music.
guess I don't have a producer being like, nope, you can't say that. That doesn't fit this story. That doesn't fit the narrative. Yeah. Yeah. So thankful. Yeah.
I can relate to you. I spent 5 months as a videographer in a newsroom
Okay. So yeah,
at a television station, and I know exactly what you're saying.
yeah.
The
we'll have to
days
share
there was
stories.
nothing going on, it's like, go out and find something. Go
Yeah.
make it happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Just it was hard for me to even swallow that other people really enjoyed that. And I'm like, cool for you, I guess. I can't do it. Yeah.
Something too, you're not just producing albums and writing music, you're very actively involved in outreach ministry,
Mhm.
especially through the Extreme Tour, which
Yeah.
is how I met you when you came
Yeah.
in through Charleston. And I was
Yeah.
such a blessing for me to be able to help with that and bringing that to Charleston during such a time that we needed that. For our audience that's not familiar with the Extreme Tour, can you share a little bit about what the Extreme Tour is?
Yeah, I would love to. So honestly, that's the reason I get to write the songs that I write. Meaning that I've been shown the audience that we get to go to over and over and over and over, which is why I think God was preparing me to remind me of why he had me start to begin with, right? So the Extreme Tour is something that started over 30 years ago by this awesome dude named Ted Bruin. He's still the director in charge of it all. It started out of a heart to reach youth who would never come in the doors of a church. So the long story short is he had to go find them. He had to go find them in a tiny little town in Idaho and go see where they hung out, where they were. And then when he found them, he started realizing, certain things he was used to wouldn't connect with them. right? Just, because he grew up in the church. He grew up listening to Christian music. He and I have a lot of similar overlaps, actually. It's pretty wild. And so it started out of him going, well, okay, Lord, music always worked to connect to me and to really like save me when I felt like a nobody. And so he started, calling up touring bands and saying, would you guys come through this town and come do this event for these kids? And they would end up like renting out vacant storefront spaces in town or go to a park. And that would lead to like the bands as they tour, talk to each other, and they would go to the next city and say, hey, we just got done doing this really wild event, with this guy out in Idaho. And, that would lead those people to call him and be like, hey, could you bring this over here to Portland? And he's like, well, I don't have a way to do it. Like I'm not a musician myself. I just did this to try and reach these kids. And so, but it compelled him enough to be like, well, let me call the artists and see which artist could help. And so it literally started out of a heart to go, okay, which of you artists, do any of you have sound gear? Do any of you have a vehicle? Can we all basically caravan together and go over to Portland and go do this? And then that led to calls to go, could you come to California? Sure, we're gonna have to do it the same way, right? And so it was never his plan. He never had a dream to start a tour ever. So over 30 plus years, it's something that he and now all of us as staff have come to realize this is a journey God just led and plowed ahead to show that something he's been doing is seeking and saving the lost, right? And using music to do it. And the beautiful part is it's kind of a kind of like the music. It's kind of a multi-layered ministry that we get to be a part of. So we go to communities and try to find people in places that feel overlooked, unseen, they're struggling, and just spend time with them. So some might call it like as an easy term, like friendship evangelism, right? We're just trying to show people, first of all, that they're seen and they matter, right? By us, especially by the Most High who made them, right? And people aren't dumb. You can't fake caring about people. So you really have to care about people. You really have to have his heart for people and go spend time with them. And when we get to do this, we go to communities all over the United States, all over the world, into several countries, and we invite artists to come out, and all of us are giving of our time. None of us are making money from this at all. And us as staff, we're going out for months at a time, like 3 to 5 months at a time. And we invite other artists to come along on this journey with us. So as we go out to a community, what it would look like is we come into Charleston. The night that we show up, we're going to go out and ask you and the people that live there, where do kind of the disenfranchised hang out in your community? The ones that don't feel welcome, they've been told they're not welcome, they've been told they're not good enough, they don't, whatever, right? Maybe it's in their own head or someone's told them that. And we just go spend time with them. It might be at a skate park, it might be in a community park, it might be on a street corner, it might be in say like a ministry that ministers to people coming out of prison, whatever, you know what I mean? We just go try to find where are those types of people. And without an agenda, we're not trying to make something happen. We just ask, Lord, you're in me. I carry you in me, thanks to this amazing gift you've given us. So if I make myself available and ask you to use me in this community, how do you want to do that? And by just spending time with people, asking them about themselves, maybe sometimes we'll take out like an acoustic guitar, or if we got a hip hop artist, we'll do like acoustic hip hop with people. But the idea is just to spend time with people and let the Holy Spirit decide what's going to happen. And what's so cool about that is that it's never scripted. It's never the same thing twice. But every time we do that, you get to see the Lord work and move in ways that I could never write stories as beautiful as. And then the next day, we will throw them a free party in their community. So it sort of looks like a large, obviously the time that we met, because it was pouring down rain, and during all the lockdown stuff, we were very limited on what we could do. But what it normally looks like is sort of like a large block party where there's a good sized stage, lights and nice sound, and artists of every genre you can imagine. We have like hip hop and singer songwriter and metal and punk and pop and whatever, right? And we're throwing people this free party to say, this is going to be in a space that you're comfortable with. We try to not put it like on a church doorstep. because the people we're trying to go to typically won't go there for lots of reasons, right? And so we're gonna come to you, just like this started out 30 plus years ago. We're gonna come to you with this party, and realizing it's for you. It's not for the church, for entertainment for the church, or even like, worship for the church is building us, right? This is for your community. And so the structure of it might look a little different to some people, where we have to start out by finding common ground with a community. So a lot of the music early on in the day is going to just be really good, great music that's fun and engaging, but it may not have a deep message yet.
Right.
And then it goes along on a path where we are very intentional. We go down this path of relating to people on a human level through, like, hey, I have difficult times. I have hard things that I'm working through. What I found, though, is through that, I found that there's hope. And then we get to share who the hope is in. The hope is not just an idea, some ethereal thing out there that, like, hope. What is that, right? Hope's a person. His name is Jesus.
Yes.
And then through the day of the event, just in a very simple way, we don't have a pastor come up and do it. We don't have a traveling preacher with us. Just the artist on stage will get up, and where it's natural in the flow of their songs, right? Just say, man, here's the deal. This Jesus that I know, like I've said, this is so cool that I get to be a part of this, because this goes back to like my origin story, right? The Jesus that I've known and walked with, I just want you to know and consider if you want to. Here's the beautiful thing. You don't have to trust me. In fact, I don't want you to trust me just because I'm some dude up on a stage. What I want you to do, if you want to know if he's real or not, if he's what I found him to be or not, you can ask him yourself. So why not? Why not? I mean, what do you got to lose? Either I'm full of it and it's a lie, like that's an easy out for you, or it's real. Like there's no in between. He's either the way to the Father, or he's not. You know what I mean? And you can find out if you want to. And then through that, the beauty of these events is all of us artists that come out, there's no green room, there's no bus to hang out on. We're there spending time with each other and the community, just building community and pointing people. And so with that, I know I'm giving a lot of story on this, but I feel like it needs it,
absolutely.
Okay. But we want the church to be a part, because one, it's their community. We're itinerant, we're traveling through, right? For us to spark and to stir something up in someone and say, well, good luck with that, hope that goes well, is not beginning discipleship, right? If we're called to make disciples, we've got to connect ourselves with those who can make disciples. So we want the church of that community to come out and be present and to meet those people, so that if they're stirred up and say they grew up in church and left because of hurt, or they've literally never really thought of God in this way, right? Maybe it's a foreign concept to them, which, yes, in America, that happens in every city we've ever gone to.
Wow.
So whatever you think that everyone would know, that's not true. That if people go, you know what, I'm either considering this for the first time and what do I do now? Or, years and years ago, I wanted to trust in this God and I just couldn't for whatever reason, but you've made me rethink this. What do I do now? So with all those types of people, we want to go, church body, community, you guys should meet right here from this experience that we set up. And if you want to know what to do next, they're willing to meet with you and walk on that journey with you. So that's the whole point of this whole thing. And so I love getting to be a part of this, because it's literally like, it's what God has shaped me for, using all the experiences in my whole life. It's literally like everything he's made me to do is really to fit in this thing. And so again, that addresses the songs I'm going to write, because I know the people we're going to go to, and I know the language I can get away with using and not using, right? To where I'm like, I'm thankful for that, because he's fine tuning that, right? And always going, cool, adjust this. Okay, you could say that to these people over here. You cannot get away with saying that to them, because they won't hear it.
Right.
And so it's been really beautiful and just amazing of God to allow me to be a part of it this way. So yeah, it's incredible.
And you participate, you're on staff on it, not just here in the United States, but overseas as well.
Yeah. So in 2020, and man, if I do, we need another time where I tell you how that all happened, because it is so ridiculously miraculous of God. It's mind blowing. But that's that seriously would take a whole nother talk. But I joined staff with the Extreme Tour in 2020 full time. And so I get to help. Since 2021, I've helped lead. We have, cover the entire United States. So I get to help lead a team for the whole like Midwest all the way to the East Coast of the United States. On average, that's like that alone is usually 30 to 40 cities a summer. And then the last 2 years in a row, and this will be year number 3, based on what I believe God's doing. I've gotten to go over to the UK, Northern Ireland, and now starting to branch into mainland Europe, and help lead teams. And again, I mean, you know this, man. Leading doesn't mean you're sitting up in some like high-rise office chair. It means you're doing even more of the difficult work. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Because in this too, that's one of the things I want to make sure, people that if you guys are, if this is like resonating with you and you might wonder about it, like all of us, the staff and all the artists, we do all of the work. We set up and tear down everything ourselves. Yes. I help again do all of the booking for every single place, what I mean? All of that. So, and help make sure the team is taken care of in all the cities we go to, just all of that. So that plus then for the little blip that I get up on stage and perform music still, you would think it would just drain everything out of you. And this is what's so cool. And this is one of many, if I gave a list of 20 reasons I know God's doing this thing and it's his idea, is we're going hard for 4 to 5 months straight. But it is the most rewarding and non-taxing thing I've ever done. And I don't know how else to describe that other than the fact that he gives us the grace to do it. I don't know. And it's amazing. So I could go on for so long talking about this because I love getting to be a part of this. So
this is what I'd like to do, is because you're getting ready to embark on another extreme tour for 2024.
Yeah.
Coming up this year.
Yeah.
Once you get back, let's circle back and talk about the experiences and the testimonies. And
I would love that. I would love that. Just
the miracles that you saw God do.
Yeah.
Because with the experience that I've had with it when it's come to Charleston, and the year that I actually got to help with it, with making it happen, which it was just miraculous that we were able to do that.
Yeah.
Just seeing God move, and the stories that you guys came in with, after being on the streets, it was just absolutely mind blowing to hear how God truly is working today in setting people free and bringing about salvation in people's lives. It's just amazing. And Jerry's absolutely correct that they do all of the work when they come into town, and it's hard work that they do, because I remember just after you ate that delicious cheeseburger I made you, you were doing all you could to stay awake that night.
Yeah. And it was probably late that night too. It wasn't like it was 7 or 8 p.m.
It was really late. It was late.
Yeah.
Jerry, we are out of time, and we will definitely have to have you come back.
I would love that. Yeah. Thank you.
Once you get off the Extreme Tour, both here in the United States and the UK. So
that would be great, man. And do I have a second for any last thing, or we
absolutely yes?
Cool, man.
Yes.
I would just love to encourage you. Like, I feel like the whole reason I get to do what I'm doing right now is because God put me in this thing, the Extreme Tour and staff, right? And so, man, if anybody's of any type of an artist, it doesn't matter what type of thing you create, or you're just in the church body and you're like, how do I go? What do I do? We have this thing called the Objective that we make free. This is not a pitch because we're going to make any money off it. We actually pay a lot of money, raise a lot of money to make it free for people. But if you're able to get here to Nashville, it's May 16th through the 19th. It's called the Objective. You can reach out to me at xtjerry.f@gmail.com if you want to get more information for it. Literally completely free. There's nothing in it for me other than it's meant to awaken us to the calling we have and what do we go do about it. And it's amazing. I would just put it that way. So I would just encourage anybody that, like, if you're kind of wondering okay, how do I do this? This has stirred me up. What do I do? I'd love to invite you to come, because I think it's something that God has done that's even, more incredible than I can describe in a couple seconds. But
thank you for making that opportunity available for those that are in our audience. We have a lot of artists that are in our audience, and a lot of artists that are desiring to go out and to connect with people that are hurting through music. And if you didn't catch Jerry's email there, you can. My email is down at the left-hand side of the screen, or actually, yeah, it's the left-hand side of the screen that you're looking at. It's Lithoscry, Lithoscry @gmail.com. If you want to email me, I will get you in touch with Jerry so that you can
That'd be awesome.
find out more about the objective and find out more about the Extreme Tour. And if you'd like the Extreme Tour to come through your town and bring not just good music and outreach, but bring the gospel and just sharing Jesus, the love of Christ, with everybody that is there, reach out to me and I will help make that happen. Jerry, thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Yeah, thank you, Glenn. It's been an honor, man. It's good to see you again.
I know. Yeah. It's been 4 years. 4 years.
I'm glad we're not going to wait that long next time.
No, we're not. I got a few more gray hairs since that time. So if you can just hold on the line before I'm just going to close out here real quick. Cool. We will be back next week, everybody, with another new exciting edition. It's going to be a little bit different next week. We're going to be taking a look at the life of St. Patrick, because St. Patrick's Day is coming up soon. And here's the question. What's it all about? Well, we're going to find out about that from our good friend Jennifer Goins. She's going to school us on really who St. Patrick was. Until next week, everybody, peace out and rock on.
Lithoscry.com